Welcome to Whisper of Lights. Tonight you are not listening to a story. You are stepping into a place that is slowly disappearing from memory. Stay with the sound and try not to forget it while it speaks to you. Now let's begin. No one remembers when it started, not because it was ancient, but because memory itself was fading. It didn't arrive like a disaster. There was no sound, no warning. It arrived like silence spreading through everyday life. At first, people forgot small things, almost harmless ones. The name of a cafe, a street they used to walk on. Then it became harder to explain where they were from. People would pause mid-sentence, searching for something that should be simple. A name, a place, a memory gone before it could be spoken. And then slowly the city began to change without changing at all. Building stayed the same, road stayed the same, but something inside them, well, erased. Street signs began to fade first, slowly like ink, losing strength. No one replaced them, not because they couldn't, but because they didn't remember they were missing. That was the most dangerous part. Not the forgetting, but forgetting that something was forgotten. And somewhere in this quiet club of reality, there was a girl. She did not trash her memory, not even a little. So she wrote everything down, every sound, every detail, every moment. Not because she wanted to remember, but because she was afraid of stopping. She believed a simple truth. If she stopped writing, she would disappear into the forgetting too. And she was not trying to be afraid. Because that night, something else disappeared. Something no one noticed until it was already too late. The next morning came, but something was different again. It wasn't always at first, it never was. The change always hid inside ordinary things. A word missing from a sign, a sentence that didn't feel complete anymore. People would look at things they knew and feel uncertain, as if familiarity itself was being rewritten. The girl noticed its first again, the one who wrote everything. She opened her notebook slowly. Her eyes stopped on a page she clearly remembered feeling the night before. It was empty, completely empty. Not ink, no trace, not even pressure marks on the paper, as if the page had ever been touched at all. Her breathing slowed, not from calmness, but disbelief. She checked the previous pages, then the next one. Some words were missing, some sentences broken in half. It wasn't random, it was targeted. Something was choosing what to erase. Outside the city felt thinner, like reality itself was losing weight. Sound did not travel the same way anymore. Footsteps faded too quickly. Conversation felt shorter than they should. Even time felt slightly unstable, like it was unsure whether to continue or stop. The girl walked slowly through the streets she once knew perfectly, but now every corner felt slightly unfamiliar, like a dream trying to imitate a real city. Store windows reflected the street strangely. Some reflections moved a second too late. Others showed people who were no longer standing there. She tried not to stare for too long, because the longer she looked, the less certain reality became. And then she saw it again. A street sign near the corner of her apartment building. Half of the letters had vanished overnight, but the remaining letters were still trying to exist. She stepped closer, slowly, carefully. Her mind resisted reading the word, as if completing it would help erase it forever. I could feel a spirit quietly through her chest. And then it happened. The remaining letter disappeared in front of her eyes. Not slowly, not dramatically, just gone. The sign became completely blank. She stepped backward immediately. Her heartbeat echoed loudly inside her ears. Because now she finally understood something terrifying. The city was not simply forgetting itself, it was being erased carefully, intentionally, and somewhere inside that realization something responded. Not a sound, not a voice, just a presence becoming aware of her awareness. Like the city itself had finally noticed her. And for the first time in her life, she no longer felt alone inside the silence. That night, she could not sleep at all. The silence inside the city felt heavier than before. Even the air felt slower somehow, as if the world itself was becoming tired. She sat beside the window with her notebook open on the desk. Rain moved slowly across the glass outside. The street below were almost empty now. Only a few distant figures still walked through the fog. None of them looked like they truly knew when they were going. The girl looked back down at her notebook. Most of pages were still filled with writing. But now the world felt distant somehow, like they belonged to someone she used to know. She touched the paper carefully with fingertips. The pages felt colder than normal, almost empty, even when covered in words. And then she heard something, a quiet sound somewhere nearby, not outside the apartment, not inside it either, somewhere between those two places. It sounded like pages turning slowly, page after page after page, as if someone invisible was reading a massive book nearby. The girl stopped breathing for a moment. She listened carefully, and the sound immediately stopped. The room became silent again, too silent, like the sound only existed when ignored. She slowly closed the notebook. For the first time, she felt afraid of writing. The next morning, the city looked even stranger. The streets were still here, the buildings too, but everything felt slightly unfinished, like a memory someone stopped thinking about halfway through. People walked quietly past each other, not greetings, no eye connected, no recognition, only movement, as if everyone was slowly becoming background noise. And then she noticed a building she had never seen before. It stood between two familiar streets, but somehow it did not belong to either one. Its shape felt unstable, like reality was struggling to remember the correct version of it. The girl stepped closer carefully. The air around the building felt heavier, like pressure against the thoughts. And then she saw the door. There were no handles, no numbers, no markings at all. Only the faint outline of a door that should not exist there. But somehow she knew it was meant to be opened. Her hand moved before she could stop herself, and the moment her fingers touched the surface, the word hesitated. The sound of the city vanished completely. Even the wind stopped moving, like reality itself was unsure if she would continue. And for the first time, She understood something truly terrifying. The city was not simply disappearing, it was being edited, and somewhere beyond the silence, someone was still writing it. The door did not open, but it did not remain closed either. It changed. The outline of the door slowly lost its shape, like it was no longer a physical object. It felt more like an idea pretending to be a door. The girl stepped closer carefully, and immediately the city reacted. The air became heavier around her. A street light flickered softly in the fog. The buildings around her seemed slightly unstable now, as if reality itself was holding its breath. And then she finally understood. The city was not forgetting itself, it was being rewritten constantly. Every street, every memory, every name. Something outside the city was editing all of it. That was why nobody noticed the change immediately. Nothing disappeared completely. It only became slightly wrong. And people accept small changes very easily, especially when memory itself is unstable. The notebook in her hand suddenly felt heavier, and slowly another terrifying truth appeared inside her mind. The notebook was never simply recording reality. It was anchoring it. Every word she wrote decided what was allowed to remain real. Her breathing became unsteady because now she understood what she truly was. She was not protecting the city from forgetting. She was choosing which version of the city could exist. And every sentence she wrote changed reality a little more. The silence around her deepened. Far away, somewhere across the city, another street sign disappeared, then another, and another. The girl looked down at the notebook one final time. The pages were waiting for her to continue writing, but for the first time she did nothing. The notebook slowly slipped from her hands, and the city reacted immediately, but not the way she expected. The street did not collapse. The building did not disappear. Instead, everything became still, perfectly still, like the city had finally stopped being rewritten. A strange calmness spread through the air, and for the first time in a very long time, the city felt complete. Not perfect, not remembered completely, but real. The girl sat quietly on a nearby bench. The fog moved slowly through the empty streets, and for the first time she was no longer afraid of forgetting, because she finally understood something important. Forgetting is not always the end of something. Sometimes it is what allows something new to begin. And somewhere far away, deep inside this sleeping city, a quiet voice whispered its true name one final time. But this time, there was nobody felt to misunderstand it. Thank you for staying with Whisper of Light. If this story feels like a memory you cannot fully hold on to, then it has done its job. Some places are not meant to be remembered clearly. Until next time, stay with the light. Goodbye.